We're live.
All right. Obrigado, Mari. Boa tarde a todos e a todas. Eu me chamo João Marcos Guimarães Siqueira. Peço desculpas até a todos os membros filiados, as pessoas que nos assistem pelo YouTube, pelo pequeno atraso. Tivemos aqui um probleminha técnico, mas foi resolvido, inclusive. E eu vou fazer uma rápida explicação do nosso painel de hoje. A gente está indo para a quinta edição do IBDD Sem Fronteiras, e a intenção do IBDD Sem Fronteiras é colocar o membro filiado no segmento internacional com convidados de fora, e hoje eu tenho aqui dois convidados, né? Um de fora, um alemão, que é o Lars Krischroth, e a Luísa Castilho, são dois amigos meus também. O Lars estuda comigo também no IJ de Madrid. É um cara que tem uma atuação voltada para o tênis, inclusive. Eu vou só tomar liberdade aqui de fazer uma rápida apresentação de ambos, né? Com base no currículo de cada um. A Luísa, embora talvez dispense aqui apresentações, por ser a nossa, vamos dizer assim, por ser de casa, né, Luísa, membro afiliado também do IBDD, mas vou fazer uma rápida apresentação do Lars. O Lars, ele é advogado alemão, especialista em direito esportivo, direito do trabalho, graduado pela Universidade de Münster, na Alemanha, né, consultor esportivo da T2B Tennis Academy, né, mestrando do IJ em direito desportivo e arbitragem desportiva internacional, especialista em contratos da ATP, ITF e WTA. A Luísa, como eu falei, já é uma conhecida nossa, especialmente uma conhecida minha também. Trabalhamos juntos no STJD, do futebol. A Luísa, pelo esporte, pela Universidade de Buenos Aires, e gestão esportiva, pela Commerce, se eu não estou enganado. Pós-graduada em Compliance e Gestão de Riscos pela Faculdade Policivitas, especialista em Compliance no futebol pela CBF Academy, ex-procuradora do STJD do futebol, auditora da primeira comissão disciplinar do STJD do judô, presidente da All Sports Brasil, secretária da Comissão de Direito Esportivo da OAB do Paraná e membro filiado do nosso IBDD. Lars e Luísa, você, Luísa, primeiro, né? Começando pelas mulheres, né? Luísa, obrigado pelo seu tempo e pela sua disponibilidade para que a gente possa falar um pouquinho. Eu disse a você que era um dos meus desejos no IBDD era trazer o tênis para o ambiente acadêmico, e que bom que a gente primeiro conseguimos colocar a apresentação no ar, e que bom tê-la aqui também. Então, Luísa, faço um rápido cumprimento a você em português. Se você quiser dar um bom dia, quase boa tarde aos nossos membros filiados, seus amigos também que te assistem, e obrigado por ter aceito o convite, Luísa.
Eu vou dar um cumprimento, então, em português primeiro. Sejam todos bem-vindos aqui ao nosso evento. Estou muito feliz de poder estar aqui e poder falar um pouco sobre tênis também. Good morning, Lars. Good morning, everyone that is right there watching us. I'm currently at the ATP Challenger tournament in Campinas, so I'm at the official tournament hotel. But yeah, I'm here. Let's talk about tennis.
Okay, and to you, Lars, I would like to thank you again, initially for your patience. We've been, handling technical problems, issues in the beginning, but I think everything is quite solved. And I would like to thank you for accepting my invitation. And also, it's very important for us here in Brazil to have an international guest and to speak a little bit about tennis, the tennis field, how is the market for the lawyers in tennis. So I'll just give the word to you so you can say to our audience, and whatever people that is watching us. So I'll give the word to you, Lars.
Yeah, thank you, Joao. Thanks for having me. Hello, Luisa. Unlike you both guys, I'm right now in Germany, in Frankfurt, and I'm actually at the UTS tournament. This is like a big tournament created by Patrick Muratoglu, and I'm here in the media room. So I'm excited to talk with you about tennis, about sports law. I'm not familiar with Portuguese, but I heard that you were already introducing me. So thanks for the introduction. And Maybe one thing I would add is, maybe you also said it, but right now I'm doing my LLM studies in sports law in Madrid, and this is how I met Joao, who's also attending this master's program, and I'm very happy we met, we connected, and that these things are happening now. Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, and I'm gonna leave to the end of it, but we were talking before we start, and Lars was telling me that he's right now as Luisa, they're both during a tennis competition, a tennis tournament, and Lars was warming up this morning with Dominic Thiem, so he was just telling us before how it was, the energy hitting with I would say a pro guy like him, but we can leave just a little bit to the end of it, but let's get back to our law field, which is our intention today.
Yes.
So I'll just start with Luisa, and just to let the audience know, my intention is not going through making any kind of a simultaneously translation, but after each block we can give an overview, and also Luisa can help me with the Portuguese just to give an idea to the public that is watching us. So guys, in this first block, I would like to talk about you and to understand a little bit more about your activities. Luisa, I will start with you. I specifically know that you've been dealing with you've been working as a tennis agent. So if you could briefly introduce your work, what you've been doing in tennis, and what is the work of a tennis agent in this field. If you give us your thoughts a little bit, I would like it to listen from you.
Sure. I'd say I'm a sports lawyer specialized in governance, compliance, and gender studies in sports, as you said before. I currently work as the legal advisor and agent for the tennis player Orlando Luz, who is ATP ranked 73 on doubles. But my experiences include a range of areas, including contract management and sponsorship negotiation, both for the athletes, which I work punctually, or with a fixed contract like Orlando. And this broad exposure has equipped me to support athletes not only in legal matters, but also from a strategic business standpoint, as I said. So it's kind of dealing with the complexities of the sports industry with a strong focus on tennis.
And Luisa, just holding a little bit with you, you work with football as well, as we know, you understand a little bit how it is, the market of football. If you could bring us just differences between how it is to work in football, and because it seems that tennis field is so unique. So what is the difference from your point of view by working in this tennis field and in the football field?
Well, lots of things to say about that. But the nature of tennis really does pose some challenges because unlike the sports like football or soccer, as you want, where the structure is more centralized, so often with a single organization like FIFA overseeing much of the activity, tennis has multiple layers of regulation. So you have the ATP, the WTF, and the ITF, each with their own rules. And then you add the complexity of different tournaments. For example, players might be representing their countries in team events like Davis Cup or Billie Jean King Cup, or participating in club matches in Europe, for example. And I'm sure Lars is quite familiar with how strong the club matches are.
Yes.
And
it's a big
really
business in Germany. The
I
club
know.
match. Yes.
It's really popular among Brazilian players looking to earn extra income mid-season there in Germany with the club matches. So each of these competitions has its own set of regulations, which can dictate even the smallest details like athlete behavior or sponsorship rules, such as we can say the logo size and placement. So working through this difference require deep understanding of how each entity works and interacts within the sport. So it's not something that the athlete or even their coach or family can be expected to handle alone. And that's where having a dedicated legal advisor or a lawyer or agent becomes essential in this part, I guess. And that's it. That's what I think is kind of different from football or team sports from tennis.
Okay, thank you. It's a great explanation to give us just an introduction and an initial overview how is a lawyer works in this field. And Lars, I'm just moving to you and stepping out of Brazil and get moving into Germany. You've been dealing with, I would say, management of career of a
Yes.
few WTA players. So just bring into this legal discussion, what could you say to us in terms of what are the main points in your, in your job, in your activity, and what it is for a lawyer to work managing a career for an ATP player or a WTA player? If you could tell us a little bit about this field that you work in, I would
Yes.
appreciate it.
So I work for a sports management enterprise. Yeah, like you just said, we are mostly focused on WTA players. Right now, we have one player that's probably making the cut to the road to Riyadh finals, which means to the top 8 players in the world. So we're very excited about this. So my main focus on the work is, of course, contracting, different kinds of contracts I have to go through. Also, like Luisa, sponsorship deals, and also a big part is like the marketing of players. So I would say it's the whole management part that I'm dealing with, but with the main focus on contracting and legal support.
Okay, and I assume, Lars, that we have a variety of contracts in tennis that start since the contracts that a player has with a sponsor, but also I don't know if there is any kind of a contract that the player needs to sign with the WTA or the ATP to become a pro. So putting everything in a balance, what is in your opinion, what are the main contracts in tennis for a lawyer that you need to deal in terms of a complexity?
So it's quite hard to say the main contracts because unlike in football, tennis players are self-employed. So actually they need to have contracts about everything. They have sponsorship contracts. They have contracts with their federation. For example, you are that good that you play for in Germany, it's called the DTB squad. Also, like Luisa just introduced, there are different federations or associations like the ITF, like the ATP. She also talked about the Davis Cup, which is like held by the ITF. And then you have like all the ATP, WTA tournaments that are held by ATP and WTA. But also you have like coaching contracts. Something we are also very... having a lot of contracts are with academies, which means the players are traveling for a lot of weeks in the year, but they need a specific base to really get to focus in for some time on their game, and then from then on go to the different tournaments. So I would say sponsorship tournaments, sponsorship contracts, federation association contracts, and coaching and contracts. So these are the main contracts we have to look on.
Okay, I want in the first block, it was my intention was to give an introduction about the activity of both of you guys, and the second one was related to contracts. But we already moved on to contracts And there's one interesting thing that Lars just mentioned, Luisa, that I would like to address with you. How does it work? He mentioned about coaching contracts. So you were a lawyer and you've been handling, just a few players in AADK here, NDK here in Brazil. I'm interested in this coaching contract. As we know, a tennis player, he needs to hire his coach and also his staff, his physio. And how does it work in Brazil, for example? Let's assume that we have a pro player or even a female player that is moving on in this WTA tour. So I'm moving on to a trip that will take me 3 months in Europe, for example. Do I sign coaching contracts with the team, with the staff? How is this reality in Brazil?
From my perspective, they don't have any contract in this area here in Brazil. Just like with the academy, I can say that, like, just for the month payments and everything, but not with a coach in special, especially because most of the academies has lots of coaches. So you don't have like just one that is gonna travel with you or something like that. You just kind of every tournament that you have to manage with the academy. But this is from my perspective with the academies that I know and that I work with. Maybe some others have something different going there, but from my perspective is like that. I assume that in Europe is kind of different because of what Lars said just before.
And just one last question to you, Luisa, before we get back to Lars. Let's assume that we have a Brazilian player that he's traveling and he's going to different countries. And then in those different countries, he needs to have a specific place to practice, for example. We understand that sometimes when the player is during the tournament, he's practicing during the tournament. But let's assume that he has a gap of 1 week between one tournament and the second one. So is it obliged for the player to have some kind of a partnership contract with some academy in some other country? Or this is something that the players, they have a friendly, let's say, relation between them, so they call the other and they schedule a period of training? How it is in practical terms?
Normally, the player handle with that alone with a friend or something like that, as you said, but it's not prohibited to him to have a sponsorship contract or something to manage a week of practicing or something. Most of the players practice on the tournament courts that are separated just to do that. Like most of the tournament, ATP tournament, I'm not saying about futures with ITF, because this is kind of different, but ATP tournament has their own courts just to practice. So it's kind of easy to say that they don't have to have a contract with a academy or a sponsorship contract.
Okay, perfect. And last, moving to you, before the panel, we were just speaking about the cases that we are going to mention here that we're gonna handle during the panel. And I remember in one of the conversations that we had in terms of sponsorship contracts, you mentioned that the player, his team, nowadays they need to be creative, for example. And you gave me the example of Nadal with a relation that he had with the watch, Richard Miller, if I'm not wrong.
Yes,
Because
yes.
they have some kind of a limitation in terms of the size of the sponsorship in the T-shirt. So what it is from your point of view, from your perspective, what are the main elements that is taking care of a career of a player that you take into account in this, let's say, in this, to be creative and find new spaces to new sponsorships for one of the players that is part of your team, for example?
So yeah, in tennis, unlike in football, for example, where you can have like the big brand on your shirt, the marketing of the players is more decent. Which means you see most of the players wearing on the side of their sleeves, and this is mostly everything for them. Maybe they have like a little bit below their logo or on the other sleeve, but they're very limited with this. So in sponsorships, you have to get a little bit creative. I think the Richard Mille example is quite interesting, because Nadal is also able to wear this watch while playing, which shows this watch a lot of times, which makes it very valuable for the watch brand. But there are also some different approaches, like Yannick Sinner going on the court with a Gucci bag, and so these are some spots you can use to brand. But as well, you have like shoe sponsors that can be that are not connected to your clothes sponsor. We have like Novak Djokovic for this, who has like Essex shoes and Lacoste clothes. So the better and the more prestige you get as a player, the more you're able to get this kind of contracts, because you have a lot of players on the ITF level, for example, that have like a full sponsorship with head. Means clothes are from head, shoes, rackets, everything. And the further you get in your rankings, the more explicit you can get with your sponsorship deals.
Okay, so I'm just gonna make a quick break, and Luisa, if you want to help me just to give an overview about this, this first block and the second one. Então, a gente basicamente aqui, nós tratamos no primeiro e no segundo bloco, juntamos as duas coisas, né? A primeira parte era entender um pouco ali do trabalho da Luisa, do trabalho do Lars, né? Eu disse para a Luisa que o termo agente no futebol é muito comum, a gente já sabe, inclusive, como é que é a realidade do agente, mas no tênis é uma realidade um pouco diferente, né? E a Luisa disse, inclusive, aqui em relação à multiplicidade de contratos que um jogador tem, enfim, contratos com patrocínio, contratos com federação. E aí, nesse ponto, eu fiz até uma provocação para a Luisa para saber como é que a realidade do Brasil ela se encaixava na realidade de fora, porque o Lars ele falou expressamente sobre contratos com treinadores, né? Então, assim, a gente sabe que o tenista ele faz a contratação da sua própria equipe. Então, no tênis, quer dizer, se no Brasil também era comum a existência de contratos entre jogador e treinador, e me pareceu um pouco que no Brasil a gente tem uma informalidade talvez um pouco maior do que lá fora, né? E aí eu perguntei para o Lars também, porque um dos pontos que nós tratamos era a forma criativa que o tenista ele tem que encontrar para poder fechar novos contratos de patrocínio. E um exemplo o Lars deu esse exemplo do próprio Sinner, né, entrando em quadra com a bolsa da Gucci, né? E o próprio Nadal também, que joga com o relógio da Richard Mille também, que é uma propaganda, que é, vamos dizer assim, o método criativo que o tenista encontra para poder arrecadar fundos e se custear, enfim, sua equipe e tudo mais. Acho que foi isso, né, Luiz? Eu não sei se eu deixei passar alguma coisa, não sei se você quer adicionar alguma coisa.
Não, acho que um overview assim tá bem completo, foi isso mesmo. Nesse ponto, o Brasil difere muito assim de algumas situações ali de outros países da Europa ou dos Estados Unidos mesmo.
Não, maravilha. So Lars, we just we gave to our audience just a quick overview in Portuguese, but let's get back to English, and I want to address with both of you guys in this block the issue integrity. Okay, And making some kind of a parallel, Luisa, she knows this reality as well as I do in football, because basically we've been working with a variety of tools to monitor match fixing here in Brazil in football. We have AI, and one of the companies that makes this kind of analysis we call Sports Radar, and they have a specific contract with a few confederations, with a few federations here in Brazil, and also with the confederation. So my point in this block is understand how is this prevention system in the ATP and also in WTA. So Lars, just starting with you right now, I'd like to know how does the ATP and the WTA they monitor those betting activities and also related to the players' conduct? How it is in practical, if you could summarize to us?
So first of all, I would like to explain why they have to take a big part in this integrity cases, because as we already talked about, like tennis players are self-employed. The tennis players are very prize money oriented, or the not the tennis players in general, but the sport is very prize money oriented, which means that tennis players are under a lot of pressure. They have a lot of costs. They have their team, like we talked about. Maybe they have their physio. They have some mental training, and they have a lot of flights they have to book week for week, which means they are very vulnerable for this kind of integrity part. Does not say that a lot of people are doing it. It just says, oh, they are in a spot where we really have to protect them. As well as this, you also have to say that tennis players, unlike football teams, are playing by themselves, which means they decide about the outcome. And in football, you have 11 people on the pitch. You can maybe change the game, but not in this to this extent like tennis players are doing. And that's why the ATP has to monitor this integrity. And we are talking about the betting, for example. They have to monitor this. So so there are strict rules against this. Coaches, players, and referees can't bet on game. This is very important. And there is the TATP, the Tennis Anti-Corruption Program, that rules about this. And these rules are taken care of by the ITIA. The ITIA is maybe some people, we of course heard about this, but maybe some of the viewers also heard about this, talking about the Sinner case, because the ITIA is not only responsible for betting, they are also responsible for doping cases. So they take care of the whole integrity part.
Okay, and I'll leave this Sinner case for the last questions that I'll make to you. I understand that this is a very complex case, and also in Brazil we have different opinions involving, it only happened this way because we're talking about the number one. So I'm gonna listen to your thoughts. But Luisa, when Lars was saying, I saw your face, and I think it gave to me the impression that you wanted to add something. Do you want to add something about what Lars said?
Sure. I have a lot to say about that.
Yeah, go ahead.
Because I think that is kind of contradiction by the ITIA, because while players are banned from any affiliation with betting companies, the organizations and the tournaments themselves are not. So many tournaments have signed with their own betting sponsors and former players have even become brand ambassadors with these gaming companies, as often the cases in tennis, the players don't really have a seat on the table when it comes to these revenue streams. So they are prohibited from making sponsorship deals with the betting companies, and they're also fined for any kind of affiliation on these integrity grounds. So just to illustrate, a player from ATP or a WTA or a ITF, which these tours are ironically sponsored with the betting company. So the players could play in a tournament they're sponsored, and their match could air on a channel backed with the same kind of industry. However, the player cannot be sponsored by these betting companies. So these things, I think it's kind of a contradiction, but a good thing that I think that ATP launched recently was a huge development with Safe Sport, which is a service created by the ATP with the sports radar that you mentioned, to protect players from online abusers. So many of the players, especially when they lose, they get like lots of texts and also emails. And as I'm an agent, I also received that emails and messages, text messages on my phone. And the only thing I dislike about the program is that it's only available for the top 250, I think, in singles and 50 on doubles. So this thing I don't think is a good thing to say, because most of the players ranked like 300, 400 or lower receive more these kind of messages. But yeah, Sport Radar also providing integrity service, monitoring the ATP Tour and the Challenger events and ATP Tour events. So it was just that I wanted to add.
Okay, and you said one important point, which is a very common reality in tennis, those messages that you receive and also your players receive. So what is the advice, Luisa, that you address to players and people from your team, from your staff, when they receive some kind of a message promising them some kind of financial advantage? What is what kind of a guide do you explain and expose to players in this situation?
So by the law, the rules from TACP, you have to what do I say, the word, just a second. So you have to address this kind of messages to TACP or ATP. It's a must. Like if you don't do that and you get discovered by the messages, you can be fined about that. So my advice is to tell like both TACP and TACP, the ITIA and the ATP or WTA about this kind of messages, because like the other sports, just the thing that the offer is already a corruption. So you have to tell them what is happening. I already received some kind of messages like that, and also the messages threatening me like wishing me to be dead or something like that. This kind of awful thing. But these kind of messages, if they are monitoring with Sport Radar, I think is a huge thing, is an important thing, because about this kind of messages, I always say to my athletes that they don't have to bother about it. It's just threatening, and they're not gonna do anything about that. The people that send these kind of messages, but it's a thing that you have to handle since you are in tennis universe.
Yeah, for sure. And Elias, and based on what Luisa said, I was approaching two sides in this story. You know, the first one is how you should behave, and the other one is in terms of prevention. So, as a lawyer, what kind of a prevention in your case? Let's assume that you need to make some kind of a speech for the players that you've been working with. And in terms of a prevention, what type of the work that the lawyer will provide to your player, to your staff, to your team, and what are the main elements in this kind of prevention that you would like to highlight for us?
So to be honest, it's quite hard to prevent these kinds of incidents. So because not just the players in the 100 ATP, 200 WTA are getting these responses. I'm also having a player that is now 17 and starts to go on the 15K tournaments. And the problem is also you of course you can bet on the Grand Slam tournaments, on Davis Cup, but you can also bet on the smallest tournaments in the circuit, which means 15K. And you see people there without the ATP ranking, for example, or in the 1,800, which means they have like a normal Instagram, and they get like messages in their inbox. So prevention could be to not be to disable these settings, so they're not able to be contacted by anonymous people, as well as you disable some kind of comments, and you just cut this opportunity to reach them with private messages. So this is the only prevention I see you can do, and it's you tell them, don't read the messages, don't read the comments, and something what you could say is only take critics from someone you also would take advice from. Okay. And from some anonymous betting addict, you shouldn't take, or you wouldn't take any advice. So why should you let yourself criticize from them? But I know it's so tough to get to this distance if they get very, very personal.
So I have also one question. This is the one point that I really don't know, and I would like to ask you, Lars. We're talking about prevention, okay? Let's assume that I'm a pro tennis player and I received in my cell phone some kind of a financial promise to me. So as a player, Luisa highlight this point, you know, the first thing that I should do as a player is to make some kind of a communication to the ATP, to the WTA. But in terms of the criminal field, is he allowed to move on in the criminal field? Let's assume that I'm in Germany, okay? I'm a Brazilian player. Yes. And I'm playing in Germany, and I received some kind of a message. So in this case, I already explained to the ATP the message, who was the guy that sent me the message, and should I go to the police, for example, to make some kind of a registration, or my responsibility is limited to link to the ATP WTA?
No, at some point you have to go to the police. So there's not like the ATP, the WTA takes care of everything. I would say you can make the cut everything related to some kind of sports. There you could say, okay, take your first step has to be towards the ATP or the WTA. But everything that gets further than this, and we all know what this could be like. So everything that's about that could be like a criminal violation or something like this. There you have to go to the police.
So, and Luisa, just we already saw just a few difference in terms of proceedings involving Brazil and also Europe, and how it is, for example, in the Brazilian reality. You are right now, you're currently in Campinas for a tournament. So, assuming that one of your players, Orlando, for example, would receive some kind of financial promise. In your case, besides all the information that you need to provide to the ATP, would you go, for example, to a police department just to give them evidences? Is this common in Brazil?
I would say yes. I want to say yes, but most of the time we don't even read the message, because when you know who is sending, and most of the time are like fake profiles in social media. So when it's like that, you just like, okay. But when you receive like a call from someone that has your number, or someone that you already know and is coming with a weird conversation, yes, then you go to the police, because it's not just to because it's a crime, as you can say, but also because you have to prevent yourself. Like, even though we're not saying about they having a procedure against them, like the players, but if it comes after you are already set with some proofs that you tried to do something good with that. So there is something that I think that is important to say. I don't know if it's coming in another question.
But go ahead. If you want, go ahead.
But because we are talking about match fixing, and Lars already said about the 15K tournaments, and we have this thing with tennis that is an elite sport, but it's not really like that, because most of the players, as Lars already said, are engaged with the prize money, and most of them doesn't even have a sponsorship deal with money involved, just the material and the clothes. So I think it's a problem when you say that I don't know, the ITF Future, for example, they have to pay the IPIN fee, and also the for the tournament, the ranging for the tournament. So, and if the player makes the championship, if he's a singles champion, he may earn like 1,000, which barely covers the cost of the flights. So these kind of things of it's tricky for them, because maybe they can see the match fixing as something that to improve their financial situation or support their families. So here I think that the role of the legal advisor to prevent those things is also to understand and the ecosystem that the player lives, and the family and everything like that, to and be with him. So accompany these players in the tournaments. I think that is one of the most important things for you to do, because you can understand everything that they passed through to be there, you know, and to understand what those things means to them, and how this thing can be tricky because of the money being said.
Maybe I would add something here. Yeah, I'm totally with Luisa about tennis players being in a very vulnerable group. And also you have to understand that it's quite easy for a tennis player to be able to fix a match, because there you could, what's quite common in this field, to be honest, is like, for example, losing the first set, but still winning the match and getting further in the tournament, and no one is talking about this.
Yeah.
Because you can it's not it's hard to monitor. So there are situations where it's very obvious. There are some videos you can watch on YouTube where you see, okay, wow, this is quite clear, but most of the time it's not like this. So it's also very hard to prove that this happened, because you also because of the betting structure. Like a lot of years ago, and Joao, with your expertise in football, you know this exactly. You could only bet on win, loss, or draw. But now you can bet on Mbappe scoring in the first 15 minutes, for example, and your team is going to win, like at some combined bet. And the same you can have in tennis. Is like he's winning the third point, or he's winning it's so hard to monitor for the ITIA, and it's easy for the players because they can get away with and still get further in the tournament. So all these things are making this sport very open to match fixing, and it's very important that associations like ATP, WTA, but most importantly, probably the ITF, because they have the most of the vulnerable groups, that they help protect the players and also communicate here that, oh, you get guidance. And yeah, I'm totally with Luisa for the family traveling with them and seeing. But I think in this world, it's even hard for the players to travel. It's even tougher for the families to travel with them. So I think we need the help from the big associations here to prevent match fixing.
Okay, and one last question to you, Lars, in regard to this point. Putting everything in a balance, I assume that it's quite easier for you to manage some kind of a thing like this, for example, with the top 10 players, because, you know, Djokovic, he doesn't need any kind of, let's say, dirty money from this, you know, betting system, because he's already, you know, earning a lot of money. But this is one reality. But if we move on over a player that has a ranking, for example, 200, and both of you guys, you know this reality, that the player needs to set up his calculation, and so he's counting dollars, euros. So at least from my point of view, those guys are just much more vulnerable in terms of
exactly,
accepting
yes,
some kind of bad offer. So putting in a balance, Lars, do you think that you guys in this legal field, I assume that you have much more work and for this specific point in terms of match fixing with the guy who is currently 300 in the world, than if you would have, for example, with a top 10 players? Am I right in my thought?
I'm very happy to say that I don't have any work with match fixing right now. So I know that there are way more cases in this field. And it's totally clear why, because as you said, this cut where you could say it's 150. I would also say it's not 200. It's 150 in my opinion. Depending, and now there's like a big opportunity in social media to getting a lot of sponsorships aside from the field, which is something what's really important for us right now, as you said, setting up the player to prevent this fluctuation in prize money and still get this in sponsorships. You get like a more continuation of your income. So yeah, but it's way more common in this field for sure.
Luisa, you want to add something in this point?
No, I agree. Totally.
Ok, just I'll hold just a little bit in Portuguese. Então, pessoal, aqui basicamente a gente tratou agora sobre um bloco e o tema foi integridade. A ideia era entender um pouco como é que funciona o monitoramento da ATP para supostas apostas, né? E aí a gente tratou desde a abordagem do jogador, como é que funciona. A Luísa traz aqui vários exemplos, né? Inclusive dela mesma, ela ter sido abordada por pessoas envolvidas no sistema, fazendo ofertas a ela. E o Lars tocou muito nessa tecla, né? Na questão do jogador ser muito vulnerável, né? E eu fiz questão até de enfatizar porque me parece que essa é uma realidade muito mais difícil de você lidar, por exemplo, com aquele jogador que tem um ranking de 150, 200 no mundo, que ele literalmente ele joga para pagar a conta, essa que é a realidade, né? Quando, em comparação, um jogador que é top 10, por exemplo, da ATP ou da WTA, eu imagino que esse trabalho ele seja, vamos dizer assim, mais suave, né? Até porque essa pessoa não precisa, vamos dizer assim, estar menos suscetível a reflexões do tipo aceitar ou algo do tipo. A gente sabe que o atleta ele tem como premissa ali não aceitar ofertas como essa, mas o meio também, volta e meia, ele nos traz aqui alguns exemplos até. O outro ponto que eu perguntei também ao Lars é se era muito comum também para o jogador, quando ele recebe uma oferta na Europa, se ele precisa também comunicar às autoridades policiais, por exemplo, se ele precisa ir até uma delegacia, e o Lars falou que em determinadas situações sim. E a Luísa, ela traz uma realidade do Brasil. O Brasil parece que é um pouco mais flexível, né? Não necessariamente o jogador recebe uma proposta, ele vai até uma entidade policial para poder fazer alguma queixa-crime. Me pareceu que no Brasil o sistema é um pouquinho diferente. Estou certo, Luísa? Eu acho que foi isso mais ou menos, né?
É isso mesmo. A gente normalmente vai até uma autoridade policial quando é mais explícito, assim, porque muitas das vezes a gente percebe que a oferta é mascarada. Ela vem mascarada, ou às vezes é feita por perfis fake, então você literalmente não dá muita bola, assim. Mas quando a coisa é mais pesada, mais firme, que você de fato percebe que é uma abordagem para isso, aí sim, aí é necessário, até por uma questão de prevenção, caso depois isso se torne um procedimento ou algo assim, tanto dentro da própria organização esportiva quanto da autoridade policial, é importante que a gente já tenha esse documento como prova de que foi de fato denunciado.
Okay, so I left this, I would say those 10, 15 less minutes for us to, talk a little bit about controversy. And the Sinner case, it seems to me to be there's a element of controversy in its nature. And Luis, I'm just going to start to you, and I'm going to give you my opinion as a tennis fan. One of the things that I read here in Brazil was people criticizing the treatment that the ATP gave to this Sinner case. So I've read something related to the fact that if it was a Brazilian, for example, the treatment wouldn't be like the one that he had. But I also read a few opinions that we're not talking about the continent or where the players come from, and we're talking about the impact of the player. So we have two different ways of watching the situation. First one is that would the ATP gave to this case, I would say, an equal treatment if we would compare with players with a lower ranking. And moving on, is this wider reaction about the outcome of the Sinner case, it came just because we're talking about just because it was Sinner? I don't know if it's current number 1 and 2. So what is your opinion about this Sinner doping case? Feel free to say whatever you want.
Okay. To me, I prefer not to think about this kind of separation between Europe and America, because it's something that I don't want to happen. So it's like, no, I don't think it's really like that. So to me, it seems like we have some leniency in this case, but honestly, when you're not behind the scenes, it's easy to let your imagination run wild. So I prefer to stick to what I know, that Wada's appeal seems justified, and especially because he is number, I don't really know right now, but he's still number 1, I think. And Sinner itself pointed out that another Italian player who's ranked in top 100 in doubles and 300 something in singles, that he had a very similar ruling this year. So I'm not sure these favoritisms really holds up. I don't know. I really don't know. But if Sinner is convicted by the CAS right now, or even if he's not, and the Swiss civil court convict him, I would definitely think that the things were gonna shake up, and it could raise a serious question about the independence of the ITIA tribunal and how they handle these cases. But because technically we are not talking about ATP, but the ITIA. So, but the tribunal in ITIA is formed by some of former ATP directors, and it's kind of confusing things when you say that they are independent. But just to add, and I think is a important thing to say about doping that is kind of separated within the case of Sinner, is that here, especially here in South America, we have some of lack of awareness, if I can say like that, because we've seen common cases where athletes accidentally ingest banned substances, like from eating meat in Colombia. So we had it a month ago, I guess. So maybe we have these differences between Europe and Brazil, or South America, but I don't know that if we can say we can put like that, like we have some different treatment between those athletes. I just want to say that, yeah, in Sinner case, and also this another case that he pointed out, there is something weird going on, but since I'm not on the back stage of these cases, I cannot say anything more than this.
Okay, so Lars, I don't know if you are in the backstage, if you have some kind of privileged information in this case, but besides that, I would like to hear from you. What's your point of view about the outcome of the Sinner case, and what what we can expect for the future in CAS, for example, in the next year, that probably a decision will be rendered in this case.
So yeah, the ITIA only took away some points from the Indian Wells tournament of Sinner. So this was the only sanction the Sinner got. Afterwards, the WADA appealed at the CAS. And now there are some things clear, some things are not clear.
Yeah.
Clear is number one, the substance. There was the substance cluster ball in his body. The problem with this substance is it's on the prohibited list of the WADA, which means at no cost you can have this substance in your body. That's the thing about the prohibited list. You can't have this substance. Another thing that was like now from a lot of experts declared was that this substance was so small that it had no performing enhancing effect. So on this part, the ITIA and the WADA probably have the common ground. Also, like in the field of the unintentional contamination. So Sinner was very quick in his response. And this is something regarding us as legal advice have to really take away with. Be quick with your response, be clear with your response, because a lot of people are comparing the Gaskiv case with the Sinner case, and you can't do this that much because I don't know if you're familiar with the Gaskiv case. He was like,
Yes.
okay, so quick summary. They found cocaine in his body. And his explanation was, I kissed a girl in a nightclub. And so I got this substance into my body, but he took way too long. So that's why he got like more sanctions with this. So it's even tougher for ITIA or WADA to say, okay, we believe him. So this is something we as have to be very quick on. But
Okay.
but also here it was plausible that he was it was not intentional. So these things are clear, but where the WADA and the ITIA were not on the same ground as the ITIA thinks this is no fault or negligence. The Sinner is not responsible for these far field. So his physio or his fitness coach not working with gloves and taking proper precautions. I think they see it more like Sinner is such a big star on the tennis economy. He has to take care of his whole team, and he's also responsible for his whole team. So he should be banned for, they said, 1 to 2 years, which is quite weird because it has to be in the statutes. It has to be 0 to 2 years. So I think you can already see that they are. That they're biased a little bit. But one last thing I want to add on this is because of the ruling of the CAS, a very important or a big question here is, when does the CAS decide? So I was looking at some open windows, and there are none until after Christmas this year. So it's also a very tough spot for Sinner now, to not know, should I be going into off-season, preparing for the Australian Open? Should I play these tournaments now? Or should I stop immediately now with my tournaments? So, because as we all know, these are right now not the most important months in the tennis calendar. So it could be, if he already knows, oh, I'm out for 6 months, 1 year, maybe I stop now, and I'm ready for the French Open again. But now he is in this kind of weird phase where he has to wait play? Can I play? Get I points? So it's a really tough situation for Sinner right now.
Okay, this was a very...
Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay, and if I could maybe add just one thing, because Joao, you're on the football field. As you know, there was like the decision of Vukcevic, the Croatian football player, and they overruled their decision before, and I think he's now banned for. I'm not sure about how long he's banned, but it shows that they are very strict on the VADA code. So I'm not very optimistic that Sinner is not banned at all.
Okay, so just gonna get a short break em português. Então, agora nesse bloco, a ideia era ouvir tanto do Lars quanto da Luísa um pouco sobre o caso do Cine, né, que é um caso muito controvertido atualmente, sobretudo pela uma absolvição primária que ele teve, em função de ter sido ali uma substância, embora proibida, mas de pouco, quantidade muito pequena, né, que não tenha gerado nenhuma vantagem competitiva, né? Eu até fiz uma provocação para a Luísa e para o Lars, se isso poderia ser algo direcionado, porque como eu li, inclusive, aqui pela própria crônica esportiva, isso não, se fosse um sul-americano não teria acontecido, o tratamento seria diferente, mas eu acho que aqui tanto a Luísa quanto o Lars, eles não tratam a questão sob a ótica regional, né? E sim, talvez pela envergadura do Cine, pelo fato de ser um jogador ali que está certamente entre os 5 melhores do mundo. E um ponto destacado por ambos, até o Lars bateu um pouco, fazendo um paralelo com o caso do Gasquet, para quem não conhece, que o Gasquet, a defesa dele na contaminação que ele teve pela cocaína foi que ele teria beijado uma mulher numa boate, enfim, que essa pessoa teria consumido cocaína. E o que o Lars falou é que a defesa do Cine foi muito rápida, né? Eles rapidamente, prontamente apresentaram ali os argumentos de defesa que levou, então, a um desfecho positivo nesse primeiro momento, mas tem um outro ponto também que o Lars destaca, e eu vi que a Luísa também vinha concordando, é em relação à janela do CAIS, porque parece que não tem janela para julgamento do Sinner pelo CAIS ainda esse ano. Isso traz um complicador para o próprio jogador, que faz com que impeça ele de pensar no futuro de uma forma racional, né? Na medida em que ele não sabe quais as consequências, se ele terá, enfim, consequências, quais serão essas e durante quanto tempo. Isso acaba impactando um pouco na preparação do jogador, se ele se prepara para o início do calendário, para o Australia Open ou não, ou se pega ali um período de break para ele poder, enfim, esperar caso viesse uma penalidade, mas essa indefinição é que eu senti que é algo, nesse caso específico, para o atleta muito ruim, né? So, guys, we're almost on time, so I'll leave the final words to Luis and to also Lars. And I will, Lars, just as I combine with Luisa since the beginning, I'll leave the word for her for the last considerations in Portuguese, and I'll also give her a few words to her. And Luisa, obrigado primeiro pelo teu comparecimento, por ter aceito o nosso convite. Você é uma pessoa que nesse campo do tênis tem sido muito precursora. Esse é um ditado que eu repito e bato muito nessa tecla, já disse isso a você também no SCJD. Sempre que a gente vê uma mulher, vamos dizer assim, despontando no segmento esportivo, né, a gente precisa comemorar de forma dobrada, né? Porque se para um homem já é muito difícil, né, por todas as barreiras naturais que a mulher encontra no mercado de trabalho, talvez no tênis seja um pouquinho diferente, não sei se é um pouco diferente do futebol, mas a gente sabe que no futebol quão difícil é para vamos dizer assim, para uma mulher vencer. E você vem, vamos dizer assim, gerando muita inspiração no público feminino, né? Porque assim, até onde eu acompanho, conheço, eu fico vendo o teu trabalho, é quase que um trabalho pioneiro no Brasil, né? Então, eu queria te parabenizar pelo teu trabalho, agradecer pelo teu tempo e dizer a você que o tênis brasileiro conta muito contigo para o futuro, Luísa. Eu espero que você inspire outras Luísas no futuro que possam vir aqui, talvez no IBDD, num outro painel também estar falando um pouquinho sobre o tênis. Então, obrigado e vou deixar aí para você o seu tempo final para suas últimas considerações em português.
Nossa, eu fico lisonjeada, com essas palavras e fico muito feliz também por poder ser reconhecida dessa forma. Acho que, de certa forma, tem um exagero aí, João, mas fico de verdade assim muito feliz porque eu venho do futebol, né? Eu comecei no futebol, ainda trabalho com futebol, mas o tênis de fato sempre foi uma paixão desde muito pequena e poder fazer parte disso e estar no universo, ser reconhecida nesse universo, para mim é algo que não tem preço mesmo, assim. E eu acho que a gente até conversava antes sobre isso, é, como funciona, né, estar nesse meio e o que os advogados que têm o interesse em estar nesse meio podem fazer por isso. Então, acho que as minhas últimas palavras aqui vão ser mais ou menos nesse sentido, assim, a indústria, ela é aberta para todos. Obviamente que a gente enfrenta algumas dificuldades em alguns sentidos, mas como qualquer outra área dentro do próprio direito desportivo, acho que uma das coisas essenciais é o estudo de outros idiomas. Então, a minha dica que fica para vocês que querem estar nesse universo, não só do tênis, como do direito desportivo no geral, mas em especial no tênis, os contratos, tudo é necessário ter um idioma a mais. Então, né, eu falo o inglês e o espanhol e tento desenrolar alguns outros, porque eventualmente a gente tem que falar com todos os stakeholders em diferentes idiomas, então isso é muito importante. E poder dizer para vocês que, enfim, existe um mercado muito grande para ser explorado dentro do tênis, e que ele se torna uma paixão, então. Cuidado, porque vocês podem de fato se apaixonar por isso. Falava com a Mariana esses dias que a Mariana Chamelete, né, nossa vice-presidente, que ela assistiu uma competição e falou: agora eu quero assistir mais, quero estar mais presente. Falei, viu só, é o bichinho que pica. Então, muito obrigada por estarem aqui, por assistirem. Eu também quero muito agradecer ao Brasil no Tênis, que é uma das páginas que fala, que trata do tênis no Brasil, meio redundante, mas é isso. E que eles foram parceiros na divulgação desse evento e eles são parceiros na vida também. Acho que a gente tem uma relação muito boa com o pessoal ali. Então, agradecer também essa participação deles de alguma forma, super importante, e agradeço no nome do Mardin. E é isso, muito obrigada por estarem presentes aqui. Thank you, Lars. It was a pleasure to meet you. I think we have lots of things to talk about after this event.
Yes.
And for sure, I'm gonna be in Frankfurt next year for the club
Oh,
matches.
yes, yes, yes.
We can
Yes.
meet in person. Thank you. Muito obrigada, João.
Obrigado.
Obrigada, IBDD também, que é uma honra também poder fazer parte desse instituto que é tão abraçado por nós, advogados do direito desportivo.
Bacana. E duas coisas que você falou, Luiz, eu vou aqui só reiterar. Primeiro, o agradecimento à Mari, que a Mari foi fundamental nesse nosso painel aqui. Sem ela, a gente não estaria aqui ao vivo, né? Por conta dos problemas que a gente teve, né? E a segunda é o Brasil no tênis. Eu me lembro quando a gente pensou no painel, em lançar o painel, e você conseguiu ali com a parceria também. Eu renovo o agradecimento ao Brasil no tênis. Eu fiz a brincadeira com a Luísa, né? Eu falei, ó, Luísa, a intenção inicial era aparecer no Brasil no tênis como jogador, mas já que não deu como jogador, vai como advogado mesmo. Então, assim, para mim também foi um motivo de muita honra. Então, obrigado, Luísa. E Lawrence,
E só fazer uma adição,
né?
desculpa, eu sei que eu já falei bastante,
Não, não, à
mas
vontade.
também agradecer ao Esportes Brasil, né, que é a organização que eu presido atualmente, mas que, como você falou sobre ser um exemplo para as mulheres advogadas, ao Esportes Brasil fomenta a participação das mulheres no esporte, não só no direito, mas em todas as áreas, que também foi um braço aqui para nossa divulgação desse evento. Então, também quero agradecer ao Esportes Brasil e todas as mulheres que estão ali comigo, inclusive a Mariana também está, a Luísa, enfim, todas as mulheres que estão ali comigo que que também ajudam, são propulsoras para que a gente possa participar desses eventos e crescer cada vez mais e cada vez termos mais mulheres participando, não só da prática, mas também de eventos como esse. Obrigada, desculpa te cortar aí.
Nada, nada. Pelo contrário, eu que agradeço. And Lars, to you, I'm gonna give the word to you for your final considerations. But I have one question before your final explanation, which
Yes.
is, tell me how it is to warm up with Dominic Thiem, because I'm gonna give a quick break in Portuguese. A gente ia fazer o painel hoje, inclusive estava marcado agora para as 11 horas de Brasília, e está acontecendo agora um torneio na Alemanha. E o Lars até, certamente, eu fico imaginando até o nível de tênis dele, ele falou, não, tudo bem, eu vou, mas eu de manhã vou treinar com grandes expoentes do tênis, né? Com Dominic Thiem, com Ben Shelton, né? E outros jogadores, né? So I have just one question for you, and and I'll leave the floor to you for your final considerations. And first one is how it is to warm up with Dominic Thiem. Is too much energy?
So yeah, it's just I was never very nervous at the beginning, so it's like but I'm loving the sport so much that as soon as I stepped on the court, it was like a way. So I'm very happy, and I just could enjoy it. And actually, most of the part was with Kokinakis and Hugo Humbert. But yeah, it was like I had like this big smile on my face coming down on off the court. It was like a big dream hitting with these kinds of players, feeling this pace, and getting off the court completely sweaty while the other players went off the court, and then with a normal face. It was like it was fine. It was definitely fine because yeah, I had so much joy.
So, and again, Lars, thanks for your time. And you want to say something for us to end, because Mari, she's saying that she needs to leave, so we need to end it up, the panel. So
Yeah,
whenever
so I just want to thank Luisa for the interesting insights, especially in the Brazilian tennis market. And Joao, I want to thank you for bringing us all together, having this nice talk. And I'm excited to do this again. I really like this panel, and thanks for bringing us together.
Então, obrigado, pessoal, aqui em nome do IBDD, agradeço a vocês e espero, talvez não para esse ano, mas para o princípio do ano que vem, a gente lançar a 6ª edição do IBDD Sem Fronteiras. Lars, Luisa, thanks again for both of you. It was a pleasure from my side. Okay, bye-bye.